think it was Suzanne's question that said, if you're getting your happiness from achievement, then where does dabbling fit? It was your question about dabbling, wasn't it, Suzanne? So if you get your happiness from achievement, because it says that happiness comes from enjoyment and achievement. So enjoyment in the present and achievement in the future. And I've said that dabbling is really good for happiness, because if you dabble in quite a few things, you can get happiness from lots of things. So if you take, for example, two things that I dabble in but I'm bad at, I dabble in playing the saxophone, and I play it a bit. And then I dabble at playing tennis, and I'm not very good at tennis either. But I think I get just as much happiness from being bad at tennis as I do at being good at tennis. You know, I'd like to be a bit better. I'd like to be able to hit the ball quite hard and for it to still go in. But beyond that, I think if I got any better, I don't think I'd get any more happiness. And I did get quite good at squash when I was younger, to the point where I could beat all my friends. I used to beat JB regularly, Suzanne, you'll be pleased to know. And it's like I can say anything because he won't see this. But I did.
You didn't tell him that, Chris.
Yeah, but the point was, I didn't really enjoy it. When I got to the point where I could beat JB regularly, I mean, the first time I beat him, I felt good, you know. But I got to the point where he didn't really want to play with me anymore, and it wasn't. Once I could beat all my friends, it was no fun. So then I had to sort of join this squash club, and then I was in the sort of top box where everyone was really good, and then they all used to beat me again. And if I went down to the second box, then I'd beat them, but it felt kind of pointless. So in the end, you try to find people who are the same as you, and you might as well be playing people the same as you at any level, really, you know. So getting good would only make you happy if there was one person you hated and you really wanted to beat, which, by the way, isn't JB. I really like him. So, so I don't think happiness comes from being better at something. So I think you get more pleasure if you do a bit of squash and a bit of saxophoning and a bit of oil painting and, you know, and a bit of everything, and just do a bit of all of it. Because if you put all your time into getting good at say tennis, you then don't have any time for all the other things. So you get the same pleasure from tennis, but you've got no time to play the saxophone or do oil painting or anything. So if you're just looking for happiness and enjoyment, dabbling seems like a good plan to me. But there is the success question, because maybe, you know, I'd give up all the happiness of dabbling in lots of things and just get happiness from success at being really good at tennis. But actually, I think unless you're world number one, I think you probably don't get much happiness from that competitive type of thing. I don't think being competitive makes you happy in the end. And I don't think it gives you a sense of achievement unless you can get to world number one. So, you know, I think probably at the moment, Federer is probably gutted because he's only world number 4. And he's gutted because he's got one Grand Slam less than Djokovic or somebody. And so I actually think achievement can also come from dabbling. So, you know, I'm dabbling at the saxophone, and the fact that I, you know, played in a band and we played a gig at a pub and got away with it gives me a sense of achievement. Or if I did wrote a really bad poem or something like that, I think I would get a sense of achievement from that. So I think you can get achievement from not being brilliant at things. You know, suppose you managed to knit a sweater, you know, but it wasn't the best sweater in the world by any means. It was quite a simple pattern, but you'd probably get a great sense of achievement from that. So I absolutely think you could dabble in lots of things and get more achievement and more enjoyment. And I think focusing on one thing and trying to be really, really good at it probably won't make you happy, because either from the achievement or just the enjoyment of doing it. So I think dabbling's a really good idea. And you've only got to be good enough to get away with things. I mean, I've had people come up to me and say, "Oh my God, you're amazing at the saxophone." And I'm thinking, no, I'm not. I know I'm not, believe me. But you don't have to be that good for people to go, "Oh, that was, you know, because as long as you're better than them, you know, they think it's good. And as long as you look confident, as long as you don't cringe when you play bum notes, as long as you look confident, it's probably going to be fine. So I think dabbling absolutely will increase your sense of achievement as well as your sense of enjoyment. I'm very pro dabbling.
But do you not think it's very personal? Because if you get to a reasonable level, then, and people think you're better than you are, then you would get a sense of achievement. But if you dabble across such a wide spectrum, I think you get frustrated, and I think that's a trait of a personality, and
Yes.
having to recognize what you're going to find acceptable. Because I think I could dabble in so many things. I just think, oh my God, what am I doing? So
Yeah, but then you're down to self-talk, aren't you? Because if you dabbled at, give me an example of one thing you might dabble at. Is there something that, say, amusing or something that you might dabble at?
well, what I'm trying to do now, and don't laugh too much, and there will be resonance,
I might laugh.
is dog agility. Okay.
No, brilliant. Dog agility.
But I think I sort of dabble at it. I don't do it. A lot of people get really competitive, and they've got all the Lycra gear, and they cruise around all the competitions nationally, and they go up the ladder, and they're very proud of their dog and themselves. But because I'm dabbling, I do sort of enjoy it, but I do get really frustrated when his tail just knocks the last jump. And
well, I think first of all, there's three things. There's not doing the dog agility because you're too busy being obsessive about something else. There's doing a bit of dog agility, and then there's being obsessed with all the Lycra. And I think the middle one.
I'm not obsessed with that.
No, you're not. And I'm glad you're not, because I think those people are a bit sad. So I think the middle one is the one to be. I think what would be really sad was if you never did dog agility because you're too busy doing something else. You know, I think when you go from nothing to a bit of dog agility, I bet you get a load of happiness from that. The question is whether you'd get more by going up to the top level of, let's call it the Lycra level. But I think if you go to the Lycra level, it means you can't do something else. There's another equivalent of dog agility that you're not going to do that will be a real shame. So I think it's a really good example of dabble and do the dog agility, but then you've got to tell yourself it doesn't matter that your dog knocks off the thing with its tail on the last round, because it doesn't really. Because if you start getting obsessive about it, then it'll just make you unhappy. And so you've got to tell yourself, at least we're here having fun, and that's the essence. And tell yourself, God, wasn't it brilliant today? And he did one round really fast, and we managed to at least beat one. We beat that three-legged poodle. And so it was all worthwhile because, we did all right. And so I think it's in your state of mind, because if you tell yourself,
the self-talk thing.
Yes. And if you say, I have to perfect things before I enjoy them, that becomes true. Whereas if you just say, I love dog agility, I'm crap at it, but I love it, then that becomes true. So I think, and the bigger picture is not just I have to master dog agility, but if it's I have to master everything I do, then I think that's a really unhealthy script, because you'll end up thinking that about everything. And then, and of course you never will master anything. And, even Federer's beating himself up because he hasn't mastered tennis, perhaps. I hope he isn't, by the way. I hope he just enjoys playing and he enjoys the fact that the crowd love him and all that sort of thing. So I think it's all about what you say to yourself in your head, but it starts with realizing that it's much better to do, to be in the middle with three things than to be really good at one thing and never have a chance to do dog agility and play the saxophone and do all the other things that we could do. And some people never start something because they know they'll never master it. Yeah. Some people look at, John Coltrane playing the saxophone and think, well, I'll never be as good as him, so there's no point. And you probably look at Spot, the ultimate dog agility collie, and you think, well, we'll never be able to beat Spot, so there's no point in doing it. And that would be really sad, because I think we'll all agree here that it's great that Suzanne's doing it, and I bet she's had happiness from doing it. I'm so glad you're doing the dog agility. Louise is quite obsessed with dogs, so she's right. And so
Chris,
yeah.
Chris and Suzanne, what I think nice about you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Hi.
Because when I had the whole discussion before, the whole dog agility, I was thinking about the topic, and it normally is a personal achievement that you're going for, right?
Yeah.
Federer, for instance, probably a very competitive guy. Maybe also finds it important that the world sees him as being achieving. So that's maybe why he wants to be number one.
So he's got
maybe that's also necessary to be number one. But with the dog, you're doing it together, right?
Oh yes, absolutely. We're a team.
And then it becomes also playful, right?
Yep, he loves it.
I mean, for dog, it certainly is playful, I suppose.
Yep.
So, are we talking about achieving here, or are we talking about
enjoying,
having a good time playing? together?
It's a good question. I like to get the rosettes. I like to achieve the rosettes for the dog, and the dog doesn't care at all about the rosettes.
You've got to be more dog. I think you've got to be more dog, and you've got to enjoy the process the way he does, and solve the rosettes. If you get a rosette as well, that's great. Is that what you're thinking, Joch?
Well, I'm thinking maybe it's similar to what Chris is thinking. If you are aligning with your dog in terms of energy, that you have the same kind of spirit in this, maybe you will achieve even more than you're already achieving now together in your sport.
I feel I'm going to have to let you know next time I go to a competition.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's really good to always be thinking about enjoy and achieve, though, and to be able to think, am I doing this just to enjoy it, or am I doing this to achieve? And and if it gives me a sort of small sense of achievement that I've actually got a dog who's managed to complete the course, that's a real achievement. I mean, my dog would never, you know. So I think, you know, already that's quite an achievement, actually. And to tell yourself, I've achieved some stuff here and I've enjoyed it. So it's a double win rather than beating yourself up because you didn't come first. Yeah, so, you know, it's just like what level of achievement feels like an achievement, because otherwise you could always beat yourself up and you could always make yourself unhappy. And it's you making yourself unhappy, isn't it? It's your self-talk in the end.
I sometimes do a small test. I ask myself when I'm older, I don't want to go into Paul McCartney, but when I'm really old and thinking back about what I've done in my life, which is when I would have done with my dog agility. When I think back, would I think back about the ribbons I won, or would I think about the moments where I was together with my dog in this instance?
Yes, you see.
What will I remember at that point?
Yeah.
Suzanne's going, the ribbons. but no.
You could be my ribbons.
You could be sitting in a chair with your husband or with grandchildren, and you would be talking about, well, in my past days, I've been doing jog agility, and I won this or that. You had something you would probably maybe tell the other people, but you would be thinking internally about the moments you had together.
Yeah, that hug with your dog after it.
Yeah. His wacky tail.
Totally. And of course, dogs are happiness positive.
Absolutely.
We know that.